Vladimir Putin is a war criminal.
I've also been saying that since my confirmation.
How many you have added and designated as part of the Russia sanctions program since you came in as Treasury Secretary?
Dwarfs everything else, and has brought the Russians to the table.
The administration has added zero. That is the number zero. So I just urge you.
The previous administration was extremely weak on sanctions, cowardice.
I'm not asking you about that right now.
But on the way out the door, Jake Sullivan raised some of the energy.
Thank you, Secretary, for coming on out here. Just the other week, you took part in talks with Russia. I guess I just wanted to ask you just your view of this. Do you agree that Russia's invasion of Ukraine was illegal and a violation of sovereignty and law?
Senator, I've been saying that since my confirmation.
That's right. Also, would you say that Vladimir Putin is a war criminal?
I've also been saying that since my confirmation.
Now, before you started, Treasury regularly targeted hundreds of actors and networks who sent critical goods to Russia's war machine with rounds of sanctions every 1 or 2 months. The previous administration added about 297 China-based entities and individuals to our sanctions list under the Russia sanctions program. I want to ask you, do you know how many you have added and designated as part of the Russia sanctions program since you came in as Treasury Secretary?
I do not, but I do know that President Trump sanctioned Rosneft and Lukoil, which was the major sanctions achievement, and dwarfs everything else, and has brought the Russians to the table for the talks that I was at last Saturday.
And you'll have bipartisan support for those sanctions, but I'll just say that there is also bipartisan support on doing everything we can to crack down on Russia's war machine, not just on the energy side. And so, as I said, the previous administration has added 297 China-based entities. This administration has added zero. That is the number zero. So I just urge you.
The previous administration was extremely weak on sanctions, and it was on record as saying that they did not want to increase energy sanctions because they were worried about the midterms, worried about the failed election of Vice President Harris, and in a display of cowardice.
I'm not asking you about that right now.
But on the way out the door, Jake Sullivan raised some of the energy sanctions. President Trump took the most bold action. So we have done more.
I'm asking you here, can you commit to this Congress that you will take action to sanction Russia's shadow fleet?
I will take it under consideration. We will see where the peace talks go.
I see how this administration has taken this maximalist approach, adding pressure when it comes to Iran's shadow fleet, talking about cutting off Venezuela's ships. I think that there needs to be consistency here. And again, there is bipartisan support for this. I wanted to just switch gears. Would you agree that money laundering is a national security threat to this country?
Yes, sir.
Now, with Binance founder Zhao pleaded guilty to violating anti-money laundering laws and was sent to prison, Binance then injected billions of dollars into Trump's family business, World Liberty Financial, and Zhao asked for a pardon and received that. I just wanted to ask you, is that a conflict of interest in your opinion?
I am unfamiliar with any of that. I wear many hats. The pardon hat is not one of them.
I'm just asking, do you see it as a conflict of interest, though?
Again, I'm not going to respond to that.
When you had the Russia talks, was Jared Kushner a part of the Russia talks?
Yes.
What is his official role in the U.S. government right now?
I believe that he is a special envoy.
So you believe that he has an official position and that is not an unpaid volunteer position?
Sorry, I believe that it is not an official position, that he is designated as an interlocutor as we bring many people into the talk.
I just raised this because this is the problem that we're seeing right now when it comes to these conflicts of interest. We see the Trump family getting involved in different roles, even though they don't have official positions. We see Pakistan now announcing that they're going to use Trump's family's companies' crypto for cross-border transactions and trade. Does that not concern you?
Again, I'd be especially interested to hear if you have any information of why Mr. Kushner is conflicted in the Russia talks.
Look, what I'm saying is that if he wants to participate in that, he should go by the same financial disclosures and getting rid of conflicts of interest that every other senior government official, including yourself, have to go through. And look, I'm just saying that when we're seeing Trump pardoning Binance founder Zhao, when instead investigating Jerome Powell, when we see that Trump is now suing the Treasury and the IRS for $10 billion, he even said, I am supposed to work out a settlement with myself. That's what Trump said. Do you think that that is a conflict of interest?
That is a Justice Department issue.
No, it is suing your department.
The Justice Department represents Treasury. I would suggest you contact Justice.
With that, I yield back.
Senator Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here. And let me say, I'm sorry you're no longer a North Dakota farmer. You were a good one, and we were sorry to see you go. So I'm going to really shift gears here and talk about something that truly is bipartisan, and that is the adoption tax credit. And I know you wake up every morning thinking about it, but and I'm just going to ask you to look into it for me. But during last year's Working Families Tax Cut, the reconciliation package, we took a version. We altered the adoption tax credit a bit to include making it partially refundable up to $5,000. And previously, up until 2011, there was a refundability of part of the credit. The adoption tax credits always had this carry forward provision that allowed, of course, families to carry over unused portions into the next tax liability. Our intent in the Working Families Tax Cuts was for the carry forward to be eligible for the $5,000 refund as well. And the JCT actually included that in their score, again, which sort of validates the intent of Congress. However, the IRS is interpreting the language to mean that the carry forward is not eligible, affecting, of course, the adopted families from 2020 through 2024. What the IRS did is they interpret the effective date of December 31st, 2024, the same way Congress intended. But there's a big difference now between Congress's intent here and the IRS's interpretation of it. I don't believe it was the administration's intent to make this what I believe to be a mistake when the president signed it into law. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention, mostly to highlight it and then to see if you'd be willing to look into it for me.
Senator, I believe you're referring to the Section 7402. And my tax office is very happy to work with your staff.
I look forward to that. And the underlying bill that created this language is very bipartisan. Our colleague, my good friend Amy Klobuchar, and I co-chair the Adoption Caucus, or the coalition, and work on these things closely together. So we'd love to work with you. Okay, on another matter, yesterday in the House, my friend and colleague Bill Huizenga, Congressman Huizenga, talked to you about the 3% budget resolution bill that he has. I'm leading that resolution over here in the Senate. The goal of it is to establish the goal of reducing the federal deficit to 3% of GDP. Now, you referenced in your opening statement, I noticed that it's already been reduced somewhat to 5.4%. And one of the ways we can grow out of a deficit, or we can get out of a deficit or reduce a deficit, is by growing out of it. But I'd like to work on both sides of the ledger with you a little bit, because you have said that we don't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem, and I absolutely 100% agree. So maybe you could just speak for the remaining time, although I would love to translate productivity sometimes as a result of efficiency, which might be a little bit of a workforce challenge, but that's another whole longer story. But speak a little bit to that goal. Is 3% by 2030, which is what our resolution do? Is that realistic?
So, Senator, my target is for something that begins with a 3 by the end of President Trump's term. As I said, for calendar 2024, we're at 7%, the highest when we weren't at war, not in a recession. We're at 5.4, and what friends from the other side of the aisle the tale of woe and gloom. We have, over the past 3 quarters, we've averaged 4.1% GDP growth, and we had a fiscal contraction last year. They brought down the spending, which is one of the reasons our bond market did well. So we're at 5.4, and as we move that down, we will see the economy improve, and everyone could go to the Treasury website or the X account. I'm old school. Then go to the X account and They can see a study by MIT that shows that the budget deficit that was blown out in 21 and 22 created the great inflation of 22. So as we bring down government spending, it will bring down rates and bring down inflation.